Hey guys, Mr. Yisley here. We're going to continue on with our Chapter D notes on decimals. This section is all about dividing decimals and the method that we use to do that. So again, another 5-step approach that we're going to take to this. I think it's just easier to remember in a step process. So when we do this, they're going to be giving all of our problems to us in a horizontal format, much like they did with multiplication. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the problem in the house setup. So if you don't remember exactly what the house setup is, we're going to have a number here. I'm just going to call that x, and we're going to have a little house over the top of it, and then another number to the left of that house. So inside the house goes the first number that they give you. So the very first one on the far left is what we're going to use, and that's called the dividend. So the first number is what's going to go in the house, our dividend. To the left of that house goes the second number, so the second number that they give you after the division sign, and that's known as our divisor. And so our divisor is going to go. So here in this little example I gave you, the x would be your dividend underneath the house, and your y would be your divisor to the left of the house. Second thing we're going to do is if our divisor, our number to the left of the house, is not a whole number already, we are going to turn it into a whole number. So we're going to move the decimal point as far right as we need to until we have a whole number. So we're going to move that as many place values as we need to make it a whole number. So decimal point, going to move it to the right to make a whole number if needed. If it's already a whole number, you don't have to do that. But you need to remember how many places you moved it, because whatever you move that decimal point on the divisor, you're going to have to move it the same amount on the dividend, the house underneath, or the number underneath the house. So if you move it 2 to the right in the divisor, you're also going to have to move it 2 to the right in the dividend. Now what this does is this allows us to figure out exactly where our decimal point goes in our final answer. So once you've got it in the correct place on your dividend, we're then going to move it directly up on top of our house to that spot. So you're going to push it straight up on top of the house directly above it, and that's going to be the spot it is in your answer. And then the fourth thing, we're going to divide as if both numbers are whole numbers like we always have. So we're going to divide just like we normally would. And then fifth step, add zeros to the right of the decimal point in the dividend as needed. So if we need to add zeros, we will. And then we're going to round the final answer if they require us to. So make sure that you pay attention to the directions. It may ask you to round to a specific place value, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So make sure you're watching for that. All right, so that was a lot of talking. Let's put all of this into action now with an example. So if you flip over your notes, we've got 2 examples here. Example A, which is 233.45 divided by 11.5. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my little house. And I know that the first number here, 233.45, goes inside of the house. Because how we would read this is 233.45 divided by 11.5. So that's why we know that it is the dividend and goes inside of the house. Second number, our divisor here, goes to the left of the house, so 11.5. All right. So once we've done that, now we need to turn that divisor into a whole number. So I'm going to move this decimal point here 1 spot to the right, which means I now have to move the decimal point inside the house on the dividend 1 spot to the right. And then that tells me it goes directly up here, and that is where the decimal point will be in my answer. Once we've got the decimal points in the correct spots, we've got it on top of our house as well. Now we can go in and we can do our division. So I've got 115 now. Divided into 2, can't do that, so add another place value. 115 into 23, can't do that, so add another place value. 115 into 233, or 233 divided by 115. Well, I know just from a little bit of quick mental math that that goes in 2 times, because if I multiplied 115 times 2, that is 230. So now I'm going to subtract it just like you've done. This should be a review for you on your division skills. And I'm going to subtract down. So 3 minus 0 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. 2 minus 2 is 0 as well. So all we have left is a remainder of 3 there. So now I'm going to bring down this 4, and I've got 34. Well, 115 into 34, I can't do that. So I've got to put a 0 here because it goes 0 times into it. And then I've got to bring down the 5. So now I've got 345. 115 does go into 345. And with quick mental math, that is 3 times. And 3 times 115 is 345. When I subtract it, I end up with 0 all around. So no remainder, so completely done. So final answer here, which is on top of my house, is 20.3. So big thing, that's just a little bit different than just regular normal division. The process is relatively the same. The big thing you've got to worry about is your decimal places. You've got to get them into the correct spots every single time. And then as you're doing your division, make sure that you line up the numbers on top of the house with the last number that you used when you were dividing. So we've got to make sure that we get those things lined up as well. Otherwise, moving our decimal place isn't going to really help us a whole lot. All right, so example B, I'd encourage you to try that one on your own. So pause the video, try it on your own, and then check your answer with mine. All right, so first thing I've got to do, set up my little house here. Inside the house goes our first number, our dividend, which is 5.476. Second number goes to the left of the house, our divisor, which is 0.37. Now I've got to move the decimal places. So I start with my divisor, and I notice that I need to move it 1, 2 to make this a whole number, which means I'm now going to go into my dividend and move it 1, 2 to make it a whole number. Then it's going to shoot straight up here on top of the house, and that is where my decimal point goes in my answer. So here we go. So first one, I've got to now do my division. 37 into 5, or 5 divided by 37. That's not possible, so bring over the next number, which is a 4, so I've got 54 now. So 54 divided by 37, well, I know that can go in 1 time. So I've got a 1 above the 4 there, and I'm going to write 1 times 37, which is 37, and I'm going to subtract it. Well, 4 minus 7, I can't do that as we talked about before, so I've got to borrow from next door. So the 5 becomes a 4, and the 4 becomes a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7, and 4 minus 3 is 1. All right. Well, I know that 37 doesn't go into 17, so I got to bring down the next number, which is a 7. And so I've got 177 divided by 37. Well, I definitely know that 37 goes into that, but I don't really know, just quick mental math, how many times. So if you're not sure, I'd encourage you just out to the side here. Let's write it out and take a guess. I'm going to guess maybe it can go in, let's say, 4 times. So I'm going to write out 37 times 4 and see where I'm at. So 7 times 4 is 28. Carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 2 is 14. So that's 148. If I did quick mental math on that and added 37, it looks like I'd be above 177. So it looks like 4 times is the most that it can go. If you're still not sure at this point when you have 148, just add 37 to it real quick and see what happens. So 8 plus 7 is 5. Plus 1, or carry the 1, excuse me. So 7 plus 4, 11, plus 1 is 12. Excuse me, did that wrong. 8 plus 7 is 15, carry the 1. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 3 is 8. And then bring down the 1. So 185. So it was bigger than 177. So really what I had was 4 times that it could go in. So I'm going to write that 4 up here. and then I'm going to write the number that I figured out 4 times 37 was, which was 148 underneath. Going to do my subtraction and go from there. Well, 7 minus 8 can't do that, so go next door and borrow 1. So I've got 17 minus 8, which is 9. 6 minus 4, which is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. So 37 can't go into 29, so now I've got to bring down that next number, that 6, all the way down. So I've got 296. Well, I know that 37 can go into it. I'm not quite sure how many times, but it looks to be maybe about double what it was on the last one. So I'm just going to try, just basic guessing, is 37 times 8 and see what happens. So 8 times 7 is 56, so bring down the 6, carry the 5. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 5 is 29. So lucky guess based on I just saw 148 and said if I double that, that's going to be fairly close. So 37 goes into 296 8 times. And we know that 8 times 37 was exactly 296, so that leaves me with no remainder. So final answer on this problem was 14.8. All right, well, there's 2 quick examples for you. If you have additional questions, please ask them. Otherwise, make sure that you review this information and understand how to move the decimal place to find where your decimal place should be in your new answer.